Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on April 29th, 2022 at approximately 1:57 p.m. PST. Now, I suspect I should check this first, so I'm going to do this while I'm at it. One of the things about multitasking on a regular basis. Yeah, okay, I was just double checking to make sure I hadn't actually recorded this already, which gives you an idea how my day's going. Anyway, the reason I came back to this world, to this life at this time, is because with society, and I'm talking global society, taking such a negative spin lately on so many fronts, I return to this lifetime at this point in time to remind everyone in existence that working together we can make this a better world for virtually everyone. Now, the thing that I look at here is this. Okay, change starts with you, but that change comes from comprehending what you're going through. Now, I'm watching, and when I talk about everybody being at the same point, okay, no matter where you come from, no matter what you're looking at, you are right here, right now. Now, many of you, myself included when I was growing up, followed guidelines from virtually every walk of life. Okay, one of the biggest guidelines where it comes to spiritual guidance is following some sort of religious or spiritual leader. Okay, now I'm not going to pick on any one particular one because here's the thing. Okay, when you take a look at the different spiritual guidance lines, no matter what we're talking about, and we'll stick with mainstream religion and guidelines that you may be familiar with. Okay, with mainstream religion, okay, it has a broad overview. And I very strongly suggest, more to the point, I very strongly encourage you, whatever religious tome you're following, whatever path you're on, read the text yourself. Okay, because much as the mainstream religions may be on a reasonable path, not all of the churches or all of the parishes in that particular religion are operating functionally. Functionally, in my eyes, anyway. And what I mean by that is if you're being taught to fear your creator, if you're being taught that by following this creator, the creator wants you to isolate yourself from other people, okay, from other colors of people, from other physical, from other sexual orientations, from other belief structures, understand the entirety of existence is interconnected. Now we see this more and more and more. But if you're being taught to fear the creator and yet love him or her, this is the same kind of doctrine that teaches you should honor the parents that are beating the stuffing out of you or out of your other parent. Honor that person because you're afraid of them, but love them as they are. Well, I'm all for loving them as they are. Don't get me wrong. But if you're being taught, like what I've seen and I've looked at, do understand when I talk about religion, okay, I've got actually in my possession a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, a copy of the Witch's Bible, a copy of the Jewish Bible, a copy of the Christian Bible, okay, the King James Version specifically, an English translation of the Quran, and we'll get to the translations in a little while. Okay, I've taken a look at the Muslim religion, okay, even at the Church of Satan. Now, the thing is, when you take a look at all of these, they all teach the same thing, essentially. Okay, they teach you that whoever your God is, whoever your creator is, it's, the common concept is love me and love your neighbor like you love me. Well, if you take that in context, love your neighbor as you love me or as I love you, Okay, if you're taught to fear your creator, then you're being asked to fear your neighbor. And I will tell you this, that's extremely counterproductive. Since I got to this world 59 years ago, I have seen such a massive increase in debauchery, in greed, in blatant self-destructive stupidity. Okay, that I cannot, well, I could. I will not endorse the idea of following a god or a creator that tells you to fear them because they're vindictive, they're vengeful. This is no better than telling you that the people that are beating the stuffing out of your friends, that are shooting up your neighborhoods, that you should honor them and respect them. Now, do not get me wrong. When I talk about honor and respect, I am not talking about meeting force with force. There has never been a case in history that I'm aware of where a war actually brought peace. Wars do bring quiet. Wars do bring change. Okay, but if you think about it, okay, if you redirect water, okay, from a stream and you irrigate your crops with it, it brings change. It will bring new growth. It will bring new life into the area. If you blow a dam up and you bring all that water in at once, it will bring change, but it will kill a staggering number of people first. Okay, and the same thing happens if you're being taught to fear your creator and to treat the people around you, and to look at them the same way you look at your creator. Now, the religious and spiritual guides that are out there, and I'm talking about the people that are leading the churches, that are leading the temples, that are leading the covens, so many of them, okay, are out there telling you, fear your neighbor. Okay, fear what's going on. Change is scary, change is frightening, right? Your creator is absolutely vindictive. He is a vengeful God, etc. Okay, now if you're buying into that, then you're going to create a problem for yourself, and probably already are. Now, do not get me wrong. I'm not one to say one temple is better than the next or one religion is better than the next, because frankly, I see them all on the same level. For me, it's very simple. I follow 3 laws. Now, take a look at the commandments in the commandments or the guidelines or the rules of conduct in the spiritual path you're on. Okay, these may be called commandments, they may be called codes. I don't know. There's so many different words for them. But take a look at them and compare them to these 3, because these are the only 3 I follow. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. Okay. Now, what I mean by that is when we talk about be true to yourself first, this means if it feels right here, okay, that's not a bad thing. This is where you have to look. It's got to feel right. I was told by one person in particular, okay, and no, I'm not going to give you their name, but I was told by one. You were not invited. I've got a wasp that's decided it likes my neighborhood. It left, I think. Anyway, I was told by one person in particular that they had wished that they had listened to me to start with. Now, I am not the best of the best, and I'm not saying take my word for it at face value. But the conversation in question had been, I told this individual, you do not have to have your life in order by the time you're 20. So many of you come up with this brilliant idea that you've been, and I don't blame you because you've been trained the same way you're training your kids. You've got to have an idea in place for your mind, for your life, by the time you're 20. Okay, and this particular individual came to me one day and said, I really wish I had listened to you. You've been telling me this for years. Okay, and bear in mind, I deal with a lot, I used to deal a lot more with the homeless, with kids that were staying away from home. They were basically even turning to each other for support in a park very near to me. Okay. And this individual came to me and goes, they literally went, I wish I had paid attention. They said, you told me I didn't have to have my life in order by the time I was 20. He says, and they said, point straight up, I wish I had listened because I picked a path that I'm not content with, and I should have never taken. Okay. And the reason for it was not a viable option for them. They did not have the passion for it. Okay. And now they are in the process of finding a new path. So I asked them, why did you take that route then? And they said, well, I wish I'd listened to you because he said, and they went, the problem there was that every other person I talked to, no matter it was a kid, a peer, a teacher, somebody, some other adult, they all said the same thing, that I had to have a path in life picked. Right? The fact of the matter is you don't. I didn't know what path I was going to go on until about 3 years ago. I finally locked it down and went, this is where I'm going. And then as of March 6th of last year, thanks to a lot of encouragement from other people, I finally started doing a vlog. And I even had to look up what that was. Right? I started doing these videos, March 6th of 2021. Okay. About a month ago, maybe a little less, I started doing live feeds on the weekends. Right? On Saturday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and on Sunday from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. on YouTube. Same place I'm doing these. Okay, but here's the thing. It wasn't until I really started getting my head on straight that I figured out, and only just recently, the path that that I'm being guided to follow. Which is really intriguing when you think that I've basically been on this path since I was born and didn't exactly realize it. Okay. But if you're being told that you must fear your creator, okay, fear the creator, and because they're vengeful, they're vindictive, okay, but you have to love them at the same time. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't take kindly to people pointing guns at me. I certainly don't take kindly to people going, do what I will, do what I'm asking because I really love you, and if you don't do what I ask you, I'm going to kill you. Okay. Now, there's one particular group, and it's not a particular religion. Okay. But I get told by people from every one of the religions I've talked to, and sadly, I've been told these by the groups themselves. Now, when we're talking sexual orientation, and to me, it doesn't matter. It matters to me that I'm myself perfectly happy with a female partner. Okay. Now, that does not mean that two females being in a relationship together or two males being in a relationship together is bad. Okay. So many of the religious and spiritual guides that I've talked to, and I'm talking the corporeal ones, the ones you call priests, pastors, ministers, leaders of covens, you name it. Okay. So many of them go, this is a mistake. But we got to remember, in most of the religious texts, in most of these spiritual texts, they will tell you God doesn't make mistakes. And if you look at the evidence that we've already got, okay, when you take a look at the entirety of the mammalian population, the last estimate that I read said that roughly 4% of the entire mammalian population, this means humans, dogs, cats, rhinoceri, okay, hippopotami, horses, roughly 4% are they are, well, what the current common term is, they're gay. They are homosexual. They are interested in their own gender. Now, if God doesn't make mistakes, and you're being told, fear your creator, he is perfect, but he's made a mistake, and these relations are evil. That's one heck of a mistake. If 4% of what you're doing is a mistake, well, congratulations. You're still holding an A because you're pulling 96%, but that's a pretty big number when you start considering the population numbers. Okay, the critical factor here is when you're looking at whatever your religious belief is, and it doesn't matter to me what it is. I was walking by the park one day, and there were. This was, I guess, I guess it'd be about a year and a half ago now, because it was before COVID hit. And I'm walking along, and I saw a group of white kids, a group of white families, really, that were playing. They were running around. They were playing catch with frisbees and baseballs, this sort of thing. They were having a picnic. A little ways away from them, in the same park, probably not 50 yards away from each other, okay, was a group of Middle Eastern people. I don't know where they were from. Okay, they could have been Arabic, they could have been Israeli. I don't know. They were from the far, by their coloring and their bearing. I would say that their heritage. I don't know where they were from, but their heritage left them that color skin. But I'm walking by, and another gentleman walking by me, right, walking the other direction. He looks at me, and he too, much like I am. I mean, let's face it, I'm Caucasian. My heritage happens to be Scottish. But this gentleman, I have no idea who he was. But as he's walking by me, he looks out at the same park I'm looking at and goes, I don't know why those terrorists are let in here. I looked at him and I said, maybe I'm missing something, but I don't see a difference between anybody out there. I don't see anybody that's a terrorist. They were all playing. I mean, granted, they were playing in their own little clusters, but friends do that. I says, I don't get it. I said, I don't see any weapons anywhere, and they're all behaving the same way, right? So he identifies and points at the darker skinned people and says, those are terrorists. I says, really? How can you tell? As near as I can figure, they're playing catch the same as everybody else's. Well, they just are. Now, this is the kind of stupidity that is being propagated when you start talking about fearing your neighbor because they look a little different. Okay. Now we have to understand, if you desire to bring peace here, you've got to let go of this idea that just because somebody is a different color, or is a different gender, or comes from a different income bracket, okay, that they are any different than you are. They still have the same issues. But it's people, okay, and this happens a staggering amount in the religious community. The one that says you should love God is all benevolent, he's all knowing by any name. But you should fear him. You must fear God, because if you don't do exactly what you're told, you'll get thumped on. Okay, now let me ask you this. If you happen to be one of the unfortunate people living in a family where one of your parents, or one of your guardians, if you will, is going, do what I say, I really do love you, and this hurts me more than it hurts you. I got news for you. Not the case. Okay. But you're being told, do this or you will be punished. Okay, this is not called guidance. This is called fear. Okay, and I have yet to see it actually do any real functional positive thing. Yes, I mean, don't get me wrong. I am not perfect by any stretch. I have my own shortfalls, and I could go into them. One of the biggest ones probably is that I am speaking my mind more often than not. Okay, and there are times I fully admit I could say things in a much more positive, in a much more acceptable fashion. Okay, I was told one day that I should really learn tact, and I looked at the person. I said, "Tact? What are you talking about? And they went, tact, the ability to tell somebody to go to guess where and make them look forward to the trip. I says, I have only one problem with that whole concept. I understand the idea of being polite, but if I'm already mad enough to tell somebody where they should go, why do I care what they feel like? Okay, now if I'm saying something that offends you, I guess the polite thing to do would be to say to apologize for it. But I'm going to go a different route on that. If I say something that offends you, it is the way that I see the world. That's all it boils down to. If what I'm saying does not apply to you, then totally ignore it as far as you personally go. But do take a look around the world at the rest of what you're dealing with. You may find that you're looking at things in a complicated fashion. Okay, this idea of hoping that people are going to change just because it's the right thing to do. And I talk to a lot of people that go, well, I'm hoping my boyfriend will wake up and, and understand what he's doing that's upsetting me. This doesn't happen on the whole. Okay, you've got to come forward and tell people what you're feeling, what you're thinking. Absolutely, do your best to be polite. Okay, but understand, just stating it will not change their behavior. Okay, but if you don't state it, the odds of them changing anything are pretty slim. Okay, so whatever church, whatever religious path you're on, absolutely, if you're getting functional emotional support there, and you're not being told to fear other people, to shoot anybody that doesn't look like you, or to look down on them and go, because they don't have, like, I was asked one day by a gentleman. I was more to the point I was told. Now, bear in mind, I've been dressing the way I am right now pretty much consistently for decades. Okay, because I've lived on the edge of poverty. One step beyond ending up in the, living on the street. Okay, and this guy comes to me, he goes, and this is from a church that is very renowned for encouraging brotherhood, etc., etc. That's the surface. But this individual came to me and went, I would have invited you to my church if you had been dressed better. My immediate response was, if God comes to me and says I'm dressing poorly, I'll probably pay some attention to it. But the day that I start paying attention to the fact that another person is telling me I'm not dressing well enough, as long as I'm dressing legally, as in I'm not showing off all kinds of things that socially are completely either illegal or totally unacceptable. Okay, and I'm only worried about the legal side personally. I says the day I start paying attention to that, I will go talk to a trained psychiatrist or psychologist to find out where I went off rail. Okay. Now, I later ended up talking to that individual, to the head of their church, of their particular parish or church or whatever you call it. Okay. And I told them what has happened, and the individual in question looks at me and goes, well, that's not what we teach. I says, well, I won't argue that's not what you're trying to teach, but that is the message that's getting out. Okay. It is very important if we are going to turn society around, okay, that we are going to have to work together. Okay. And I will tell you this. Okay. Well, I should have said this a long time ago in all likelihood. If you like the video, do give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to my channel because there's a lot of information, a lot of changes in the way that the world is looking at each other that are really required. Now, I'm not perfect by any means, but the tools that I'm offering and the philosophies of life that I offer are exactly the ones that I personally follow, that I personally use. Okay. These philosophies have brought me around to the point where I am no longer one paycheck away from ending up on the street. in point of fact, if I take a look at what I've got in line of credit, in line of money in the bank, let me just think here. At $2,500 a month to run my entire house, without it getting dangerous. Okay, as in without me all of a sudden really having to fight to juggle things. I've got, roughly speaking, let's see, I've got about 4 months of living expenses before I get into a dangerous point. Okay, 4 months as compared to one paycheck. Now, this is the path that things have put me on. Okay, the tools I've used, that I use, the ones that I promote, are the ones that have led me to this point. And I will tell you, because of that, this is why I'm telling you these tools work. Now, I've been doing this since I started doing this professionally, as in generating an income in my own life. Okay, starting in 1986. Okay, so we are talking about, well, I'm 59 now. So I've been doing this now professionally for, I think, my math is probably off right now, about 35 years. Okay, to the tune of about 80,000 clients. Never mind the numbers of people, the thousands of people that may have listened to these videos. Okay, I'm talking about the ones I've dealt with for years prior as well. Okay, if you're being guided to love your creator and yet fear all of the creator's children that are not exactly like you. Now, understand, whether you're an adult or whether you're a little kid, you're still a child. You still have a set of parents. Okay, and it's time to look in the mirror and ask yourself, are you treating those people the way you desire to be treated? Okay, if the answer is yes, this is great, then a lot of this will make sense. Okay, and hopefully you will take this message out to the people you come in contact with by your actions and spread this message to everyone you come in contact with. That working together, we can make this a better world for almost everybody. Now, I will be back again tomorrow. Okay. But until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.